Advanced Portrait Painting Through Universal Line, Materializing a Painting Without Human Hands by John Paolucci. The following is a conversation between me and my artist friend Mac.
Advanced painting through universal line? You talked about line as the first dimension of control in painting, but never universal line. What's up with that?
I have a painting adventure to take you on that will be more far-reaching than you ever imagined. You know when you're asleep at night and dreaming? You're all alone within yourself and you imagine all kinds of conditions, people, and events. The dream seems to go on by itself, but of course there is no one besides you laying there, so that in reality you're telling yourself a story about things seeming to be real. Let's say you're dreaming about painting a stunning portrait, although of course it could be about accomplishing anything.
Okay, when I dream, I'm all alone in a private world telling myself a story of how things work. There have been times when I know I'm dreaming, but almost all the time I forget and fool myself into believing it's real.
Whatever happens in your dream world, as far as you're concerned, tells you how the universe works. It's the way life is according to your storyline. Let's take 5 possible storylines as they could relate to progress in painting. Here, the only limitation is your imagination. 1. You know exactly how to paint so that everything goes smooth and effortless. 2. You get ideas or have visions of how the portrait could look beyond your wildest expectations, and then find that you have the skill to easily paint it. 3. You always see the finished painting in front of you, and you just fill in the colors for others to be able to see. 4. You feel like your hand is being guided while you paint so that painting happens spontaneously and magically. 5. The finished painting physically, instantly, permanently materializes out of thin air in front of you as if by an invisible magic hand. The painting is produced without human hands. Have you ever had dreams like 3 through 5?
No, my imagination has never been that far out. However, I once dreamed that I did real magic tricks after watching a movie about it before going to sleep.
You can imagine all kinds of far-out things within the dream experience and believe them to be real because you're unaware that it's only a dream going on. There you are, all alone, defining how your universe works, which can include any real magic or any supernatural event. What if I was to tell you that right now, here, you are all alone? There is no one besides you as the sole commander of the universe, and all of this is your private dream. You make all the rules of how the universe works because there is no other authorship besides you. Your intention is the starting point of everything, including all the vast complexities that seem to be way beyond your human mind to comprehend. Absolutely everything you do, the entire universe, comes forward instantly as supernatural magic following your mere intention. You are the totality of the universe.
I'd say you've been inhaling vapors from your paint supplies. Smile. But something tells me that you're going to attempt to prove it to me. Is that what you meant by more far-reaching than I could ever expect?
I'm going to show you what to look for so that you can determine it for yourself, so that you have your own conviction and don't have to believe what I've said just because I said it. I'm going to tell you how and why you are everything, totality, without depending on schools of philosophy, without science, just examining simple mechanical facts. Then I'm going to have you use it to paint portraits.
Okay, where do we go from here?
I'll put what I'm going to tell you in a book called Advanced Painting Through Universal Line. I'll make it more fun with lots of illustrations. You can come back and review anytime you like. It will be a study manual for ongoing familiarity, which ultimately becomes a deep realization of practical, workable results. You'll come back repeatedly to hear it say things you didn't hear before. Points too abstract to grasp will take on practical utility. new experiences in your life will draw more from the text, and you'll look at the same words in a new light. If you have any questions later, you can click on the email link at the top of my text, and I'll get back to you. I recommend that you slow down, think, and go over it continually until you master understanding the material. For some, the material may seem over their head, but if they lightly follow it to the end, it should fill in itself. To proceed, I must first take you through logic-based steps to understand the first and most simple law of your universe, the most simple fact anyone could know. You'll then build detail on top of that like building a house on a solid foundation. The first law will provide the basis of who you are, where you're going, and why you can take full conscious control of your real dream. At each step, you'll be able to trace your journey back to, and have it confirmed by, the simplest fact you could ever know. Even though this journey will touch on metaphysics, metaphysical attributes will be illustrated in simple mechanical ways so that your feet remain on solid ground. So, on with who you are. You're the sole commander of the universe, you sitting right there. You're making all the rules or laws of the universe. What you decide is the reason for everything in the universe happening right now. You're all alone, and there's no one else besides you. It's all a private dream, which is expanding self-awareness, a dream which pretends to be a multifaceted universe. If this statement is true, you have to be playing an incredible hide-and-seek forgetting game that you're having your universe play back on you. It's a game which makes you seem like only an ant in the scheme of things. There is only you, and then there is forgetting you. You make your dreams come true by your supernatural power. You build your life to order. I'll explain how you're using the full you, your one all-person state, right now as much as you ever will, yet you're now unknowingly using it against yourself to provide yourself with all the living proof you could want that such mastery is only nonsense. I'll show you how to reverse this with the simplest, most comfortable thing you could do, and not by trying to remove obstacles or by exerting yourself in any way.
But what about everyone else? How can I be sole commander if they exist, say like my neighbor?
Remember, in your dream at night, other people have to seem to be real, or else you wouldn't believe the dream. Your question demonstrates forgetting that you're dreaming right now. It's as simple as that.
You're saying that only I am real and all other people are not? What if you told this to my portrait painter friend Bob? Wouldn't he learn to take control of his private dream, which includes an Unreal Mac?
I'll show you how there is only one person who is the universe, which means that he does all, sees all, and knows all, everywhere, so that everyone is that person. Everyone owns all of that person because he is indivisible, so that everyone is all of it. Owning all that person, they all own the private dream. Because there is only one person, everyone is correlated at the fountainhead of that dream with perfect order and with no conflict between its seeming innumerable dreams. Unless he chooses to dream imagine a seeming illusory conflict. You are that fountainhead. You are the source that makes Bob seem to be able to privately own and run the universe simultaneously. I said that you're all alone because you are that one lone person.
Heavy. Okay. Let's say Bob and I enter a contest to win a prize for our portrait paintings. We both know that we're one all-person in our private dream. Who wins the prize?
Again, your question demonstrates forgetting that you're dreaming. You wouldn't talk that way if you knew you were dreaming all alone, because you'd know the dream is going to go the way you direct it. That's what I meant by the illusory conflict. Simple, 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 yes?
So I'm not a co-creator with Bob or anyone else.
You're all alone, no one else besides you. Co-creatorship requires you to act on a localized view of the universe for Bob to be a seeming reality. I'll have you carefully examine that later.
But then Mac is a dream too, so he's not any more real than Bob?
From the point of view of your one all-person state, yes. Yet because Mac owns all of it, even though we could say Mac is only one all-person's dream, we're going to have Mac organize his life, that is, what makes you a Mac and not a Bob, directly from your one all-person state. You do that by knowing you are that person. Right now you don't know it because you haven't had an opportunity to see what to look for to confirm it for yourself.
I was about to ask that if with all that power, couldn't I abuse it to harm another? But if I'm all alone consciously dreaming, I wouldn't have any reason to dream an enemy, dream power abuse, nor create an obstacle to overcome. I'd only be harming myself or shooting myself in the foot. All right then, on we go to let you convince me all this is true.
I've organized the information as my first 5 laws of the universe. Also, to help you get the message, from now on, I'm going to speak in first person as the one person who is and does the universe, and speak to you as my imagined real dream.
But what do you mean by universal line?
I will define the universe as various rates of vibration. Line bends to make a wave, a vibration, so that line is the universal basis of wave, or everything in the universe. Line is like the ocean that creates waves which come and go. I will get into that in great detail with the purpose of performing painting from the very source of the universe. Here are the contents of Advanced Painting through Universal Line as 5 chapters. My first law of universal line. I as one total thing never stop being one total thing even when I become individual variations. My second law of universal line. I as one thing express myself as a one all-person variation, and I never stop being that individual even when I become various beings. My third law of universal line. In my completeness, I as one all-person have no place to expand. So through reduced perception, I pretend to stop being myself and experience myself as isolated recipients of variations. My fourth law of universal line. As isolated recipients, I seek events to know who I am, what will happen, and what I can do. With that, I use my one all mind to seemingly prove whatever I find. The adventure begins. My fifth law of universal line. A time comes to discover my hide-and-seek game and re-establish my identity. Even without perception of one all-person, I use my one-thing state to act as if I were not missing. I go ahead to command my universe from my one-thing state. Perception, experience, and events then flow fondly. Eventually, I know and do everything again. My first law of universal line. I, as one total thing, never stop being one total thing, even when I become individual variations.
One thing. Is that what you meant by the simplest thing I could ever know?
Yes, I and my universe are one thing. When I use the word universe, I want you to be clear what I mean. Have you ever given consideration to the word universe?
Just that it's so big that I could never know what it is.
There is uni and verse. Uni as in unicorn, unicycle, uniform, and unison. It means one. Verse as in a poem, a version of something, like a current computer operating system. It identifies a part of something or a changing state. Have you ever opened up a carton of spoiled milk? You smell it and say, whoa, that sure turned. The root meaning of verse simply means to turn. When the sun passes through the sky, the day turns, the seasons turn. When you're happy with your life, you say it turns out well. Universe suggests that one thing turns, that all changes and parts belong to one thing. It suggests that one thing never stops being one thing, even when it becomes variations. We'll see how important it is to know that one thing creates your life, even when your life seems only to do with a lot of parts working together. Let's look at variations from the point of view of wave vibration. I put on a test tone. This is a test tone of 50 cycles per second. The audio speaker cone moves in, out, and then back to its rest state, a total of 50 times each second. You can't hear the sound unless the tone starts from and comes back to its rest state. Whatever the complexities of waveforms, they all must refer back to one common denominator, which is a flat zero state, or a state without a rate of vibration. Uni is the common denominator, the speaker frame. Verse is the movement of the cone. A light source vibrates at 470 billion times a second, and you see blue. The matter of solid rock vibrates at x to the x power, and you can pick up a seemingly solid object. Wave vibrates even higher, and you have a thought vibration about picking up a rock. Still higher, your intellect moves thoughts around. Still higher, your sense of identity vibration perceives a constant underlying you, who is the experiencer in the midst of all other vibrations that come and go. That is, I am. A certain wavelength span occurs, and a year is defined. The space between the sun and earth is defined by a wave that same length. Time and space are simply rates of vibration like any other attributes of the universe. I'm not relying on science to verify what I'm saying, but if you want another source, quantum physics can provide details. A good analogy is the ocean and its waves. It's an analogy everyone can easily identify with. The ocean is one thing. The waves are the ocean, so that the waves are also that one ocean. Here's a bowl of water as an analogy of my one complete field, the universe, reverberating within itself as waves. With this bowl filled with water, I slowly rock it back and forth and watch the variety of waves. The waves bounce back and forth, and they collide with each other, which yet causes smaller waves. The waves seem sometimes to cancel each other out. The patterns are unique and endless, yet it's one solid body of water from which no amount is added or removed in order for it to undergo internal change. This helps us see the big picture of how I, as everything, are one vibrating thing. Just like the still silent ocean and waves, waves come up, out from the bowl and then return to it. Any aspect of me comes up out of my common flat non-wave state. I'll visually represent an event by using this bell curve. Here I'm simply mapping an impulse of an event, experience, perception, or aspect of me, your universe, which comes and goes. This is me as my universal flat line state. It's a state of no attributes or no variations.
You say me, but there's nothing there.
Everything is there in a potential state, which I'll talk more about later. There are two me's, a still state and an active, vibrating dream universe as seen in these two models. Here is a transparent sphere as a symbol for me as one thing, the uni of verse. I use it because the line that defines its outer shape is one endless turn. Its lack of features renders it transparent. Here you are and your painting vibrating as waves from the silent, flat, zero state represented by the audio speaker. It's the same as one common, flat, still field that everything has in common, or me in my silent state, which I represented by the transparent sphere. This is my silent state, my still state. It's a virtual state. I don't mean virtual in the sense of artificial or make-believe. I mean hasn't yet become. I possess the virtue of wave, which means that I, the possessor, myself, remain flat prior to wave, universal prior to wave. You saw that clearly represented in the speaker cone, so you have an example of my nature in the world. All potential vibration is contained in universal line because it's the source of wave. Whatever portrait you could paint a year from now, whatever you'll be doing in the future, I silently own each and every one of those potential vibrations always, already, right now. I say always, already, right now because time and space is one of those vibrations I'm the source of. You can see that if my state was not universal line, I'd be just another one of those things out there waving as wave and not the common denominator itself. I am beyond my dream world, and I am my dream world. I am universal line. The concept of a non-vibration state, which is virtual, and from which all vibration arises, is the most abstract concept imaginable. How could something which has no attributes and no vibration contain all attributes and all vibrations? It's a mind stretcher. That you can conceive of such a metaphysical non-wave state, and the simple mechanical sense behind it, will suffice for the use of it. Perception of it isn't necessary for its use. In fact, perception of it doesn't happen because it is the experiencer, the experience, and the object of experience all rolled into one universal, attribute-less state.
But in a way, this universal line does have attributes. It's indivisible, non-dimensional, timeless, spaceless, and all-pervasive, and the fountainhead of all variations.
Very good observation. Those attributes you mentioned are non-variation attributes, beyond wave and beyond the field of perception. Usually attributes are a way of describing variation. Now we're going to discuss the variation of the vibration of one all-person. My second law of universal line. I as one thing express myself as a one all-person variation, and I never stop being that individual, even when I become various beings.
You say that I'm a one all-person variation of line with one big all-dream. I see line bending and vibrating to make all these individuals and things in the universe, but why does it, or I, remain one all individual while I become many, like one all dream? Why don't I as line just go right on to a lot of individuals? And as soon as I do that, I'm just one of many isolated individuals dreaming little dreams so that there is no one all person.
You've seen people speak into a microphone and say, testing 1, 2, 3, 4. Say that now into this microphone I'm handing you.
Testing 1, 2, 3, 4.
Who just spoke?
I just spoke.
Didn't Universal Line just speak? It just bent to speak, didn't it?
All right. One line just bent and spoke, bending into my Mac vibration.
How many possible lines are there to bend and speak? In other words, how many benders of wave are there?
Only one, because it's all-pervasive and indivisible. The ocean spoke even if it seemed only a wave. Any second line would be a variation, and variations only happen as wave. Okay, but that means that line becomes a rock too. But a rock is not speaking and controlling everything as one all-person.
It means that a rock owns the whole of the universe. In your dream, rocks don't speak nor organize the whole of the universe, but that's only Mac's imagined separate dream. They do in others' imagined separate dreams.
Wait, are you saying that one all-person state exists only because I dream him? And if I don't dream him, he doesn't exist?
Only if by I you mean yourself as universal line. If by I you mean how you normally perceive and define yourself as Mac, then no. One all-person is Mac's source, not the other way around. What I'm saying is that because Mac is universal line, all of wave belongs to Mac. Mac carries the entire universe around with him as a full Mac. Mac is therefore a all of it and an all of it person, if he exists as a person at all. Another way of saying it is that wave expresses who the bender is, and there is only one bender, inseparate from Mac. Wave is the bender. Simple. One thing just spoke as a who or as a Mac, and because wave never stops being one all line, that makes Mac one all person. No matter how localized the wave becomes in its multiple aspects, one line is still fully in charge and fully present. That holds Mac singular as one all person. All Mac can do to the contrary is to imagine he's not that. It's so simple that only talking about it seems to make it complicated.
I think I get what you're saying, but it's very abstract. I'll have to take time to carefully consider it. I'll consider wave expresses who the bender is, and there is only one bender, full Mac.
Let's look at some mechanics of the universe. At the deepest level of the ocean, it's still, quiet, and dark. As you go higher towards the surface, there's more activity. Finally, at the surface, there are crashing waves. We could say that there are many levels or layers of vibration from higher to lower, from finer to grosser, the grossest being on the very surface. That analogy has its limitations. In the illustration here, higher vibrations form and permeate lower vibrations. When you take your cell phone with you anywhere in your house, a signal is always received, even if the phone is behind a wall, under a couch, and so on. The signal's high rate of vibration, and that is radio frequency, permeates the walls. Higher vibration is always the authorship of lower because it can get to lower. In this illustration, you see a higher vibration wave putting out multiple beings, here as fish in the sea. Remember your cell phone signal, vibration, and all the cell phones picking it up? All these fish have a central authorship in their midst because they have fishness in common. You asked, well, why don't I, as line, just go right to a lot of individuals, and as soon as I do that, I am just one of many others dreaming little dreams so that there is no one all person? My question to you is, what is the wave that holds all these fish waves as separate and going about their own waves? It has to be a bender of wave A collective, localized bender of wave that is putting out only fish. Localized means it's not putting out seaweed or anything else, only fish. It not only remains line, like line does with everything else, but it's a higher vibration that organizes the divisions and activities of fish right in their midst. If there are multiple individualized vibrations, like fish, there has to be a higher but still somewhat localized authorship that specializes in organizing those unique divisions and activities. A somewhat localized authorship that specializes is what I call a person. Why? It has a personality, different from other local bender organizers. The structure of the localized overwave looks like this. His personage is the bell curve, and his personality are the waves on that curve. Let's continue to trace back vibrations to less and less localized until we get to the highest and therefore a final personality. All the oceans on Earth have a localized organizing vibration that holds them separate and going about their own ways. Here, an authorship of the sea is painted with forms which humans can identify with. He is called the God of the sea. Look how he's holding a sphere as I showed you, as if he knows from where he came. All the planets have a localized organizer for them too. Here, John Singer Sargent painted my Deity of planets. Go out further to our solar system, stars, galaxies, and so on. The final highest vibration will be a central, all-inclusive over-organizer just before that non-wave universal line. It's all very simple, but you have to open yourself to metaphysics because these personality vibrations are not physical material like the fish or the stars. Meta means I am beyond my creation. If you have eyes, there are less localized over eyes. If you have a me-ness sense, there's a less localized over me sense. If you're a person, there is a metaphysical one all person in your midst. Every major civilization has had advanced individuals who glimpsed various metaphysical levels with their higher vibration eyes. For instance, then I saw the 7 angels who stand before God, and 7 trumpets were given to them.
Okay, now the only thing still hanging me up is that line is no thing, no attribute. So how can it speak and thus wave itself as one all person?
Because line is pure intelligence. I'm not saying it's intelligent. Intelligent requires a form. All these waves become extremely complex and purposeful. Portrait painting is very complex, and you do it on purpose. Wave express intelligence. The bender is intelligence. The wave is intelligent. The first thing I, as pure intelligence, do, the first thing I do out of my quiet virtual state when I vibrate, is become conscious of myself. I am then consciousness. With that, I amness. You have a sense of identity and say, I am. You also say, I am intelligent. That's me, bending as wave. Remember that I said there are 2 me's, a silent state, which is a virtual state, and an active vibrating dream universe. With that, I am proceeds to now I become.
Yes, but I'm still a little limited Mac. Where are my one all-person attributes that are as wide-ranging as the whole universe? What good does it do me to know about them if I'm still a little limited Mac and don't experience them?
Your perception is the basis of the evaluation that you're still a little limited Mac. I'm going to show you that perception doesn't change the structural reality of your one all-person presence. Not only that, but reduced perception need not stop you from using that presence and putting it to work to paint an instant magic painting like I, as one all-person, do. I'm going to have you act on metaphysical facts that underlie your perception's conclusion. You'll act on them because you know why your perception alone is not a valid basis to act on. See this illustration? You're going to know that the line that bends to make Mac is the very same line that makes one all-person. You're going to skip over all the localized over-organizers and claim your original highest authorship as line. There you will command your universe as I do. You can do that because through universal line, you already are me.
Now let me think how it helps me to do a painting better when I know I'm one all-person.
3 words. Complete authorship integrity. Authorship integrity means that you express perfect choice and sufficient supply. Because you are alone as one all-person, fully in charge of your universe, seeing and knowing everything, not missing anything, you embody perfect choice. If your intention is the starting point of everything that happens, like a dream, then you embody sufficient supply. That means that there are boundless possibilities when you go to paint a portrait. It's your imagined dream world. With this new knowledge, with this new self-knowledge, your changed imagination changes your world by consciously directing perfect choice and sufficient supply instead of directing yourself as merely an ant in the scheme of things. Because it's all your private dream, the world is as you are. The super all you says, now I become, and your portrait painting instantly materializes out of you by supernatural magic, without human hands, the way I do everything.
My aunt is very religious. When I was a kid and got into trouble, she said that I needed to give it to God. How does that relate to what you're saying?
She took into consideration complete authorship integrity, but didn't go all the way with it. She made it a bigger person than her, and held herself separate as an isolated recipient of someone else's will. For instance, she would have to consider, but what if it's not God's will for me to make a magical painting out of thin air? Separating yourself from God may be helpful, and it's certainly better than acting as if there is no God, but now is the time to consider going all the way and claim yourself and your will as your universal person state.
When I say one all-person, I think of the word God. One all-person means his body is the all of the universe, right? He knows, sees, and does everything everywhere forever, right? You just proved I'm one all-person, so where is my body, my eyes, and my mind that knows everything all at once? I see how I own this big thing, but it's not my experience. I only see 20 feet to that wall.
The thing is that my one all-person body is all-pervasive. Whatever is all-pervasive is indivisible. Here's why. Here are 3 jars. One is empty, one is half full, and the last is full of water. The empty one looks just like the full one. You can't tell the difference because the fullness in the jar is all-pervasive. Only a partially full jar can be perceived as less than. It's my all-pervasive nature that makes me so well hidden. Something completely all-pervasive is transparent because it permeates everything so completely. This is why I said that your perception isn't a valid basis for conclusion.
Then what is really true?
The truth is that which does not change. The field of your perception is constant change. I'm going to have you act on truths, the non-change attributes about me that you yourself mentioned earlier.
But one all person is a high vibration change, and you just said that all change is not true. So you're saying that one all person is not true?
That's correct. Only my universal line virtual state does not change. We will be dealing with truths that are more completely true than others. Remember that we are here talking in order for you to paint portraits in a manner that is more far-reaching than you could ever have imagined. We're going to put these various levels of truth in their proper order and proper perspective so that you always have a foothold on the most complete truth while dealing with lesser complete truths. Dealing with lesser complete truths is what I as one all person always have done and always will do in my universe. But I never forget who the dealer is. Universal line.
Well, if it's good enough for one all person, then it's good enough for me. Smile.
Let's look at some of these various levels of truth, or what we could call a hierarchy of wave aspects. I said that higher vibration is always the authorship of lower. In this diagram, I show a hierarchy of waves. My wave aspect includes the following. 1. Forms of physical matter. 2. A thought vibration. 3. Intellect, that is the vibration which moves thoughts about like figures on a chessboard obeying a hand. And finally, identity sense, or me-ness, the vibration which underlies the intellect. To help understand intellect, when you're playing chess, you decide your move. Then you reach out your hand to make the physical matter of the figure move about. Intellect cannot exist without the underlying aspect of me-ness supporting it. Me-ness cannot exist without the presence of universal line to bend. In your private dream, physical matter cannot exist without the underlying aspect of thought to give it shape. That's why we have to call my physical world merely a dream. Everything is my intention. Intention is the mind activity or mental image, which is a starting point. Mental starting point means not made real yet. Mental activity not made real yet is referred to as imagination or dream. When you know this, you're inspired to change that dream, and you're not intimidated by something seemingly fixed. If you need a bigger canvas to paint on, instead of going to the art store, you simply change your mind and change your dream. Then there it is in front of you. Without line, without my common medium at the most basic level, the highest level, just beyond the highest vibration, everything else below would fall apart. Line has to always be there, and it doesn't stop being a line of pure intelligence just because it seems to bend. When you go to that place within yourself that calls yourself a little limited Mac, you forgetfully use my authorship integrity to isolate yourself in a little box. Your world then takes shape, or maintains the shape which you originally put in motion. You say, it's just the way things are. It's then that you only see 20 feet to the wall, and not more. This brings us to my third law. My third law of universal line. In my completeness, I as one all-pervasive person have no place to expand. So through reduced perception, I pretend to stop being myself and experience myself as isolated recipients of variations. My emerging localized realm being.
I have to ask, how come I, as one all-person, forgetfully isolate myself in a little box?
Think about the big picture. If I'm complete everything everywhere all at once, where do I go to become something? I'm already anywhere I'd want to move to. My only option is to pretend I'm less than I am, so that I'm not everywhere all at once. Then there's my opportunity to move from lesser to greater. In my complete already there field, like the water bowl, all I have to do is cancel out some waves of perception which me-ness acts upon. Remember when I rocked that bowl of water back and forth and you saw waves cancel each other out? That's how I cancel out areas of perception, so that I only see so much of myself to conclude about, and pretending, I say, I am not there yet. Then the hide-and-seek adventure begins. This can only be pulled off because my nature is all-pervasively transparent. With shut-down perception, I can come to all kinds of conclusions about who I am and what I can or can't do. I say that I can't create a finished painting out of thin air. I say that I am only a little insignificant Mac. In this illustration, I shut down my perceptions so that I, as an individual, will conclude that he's only an ant in the scheme of things. Here I use a symbol of a horse head with blinders to represent the individual. Here's an illustration of what exactly happens, which is easy to confirm from your own experience. I open my eyes as a newborn in a realm of narrow vibration bandwidth to find only so much, a little box of life. I then act on what I know based on that absence of the big picture. I say, who am I? Why am I here? What's all this? How do I survive in the midst of it all? As I progress on a journey and get older, I respond to those questions by seeking validation from the experiences that have shaped my world so far. By validation, I mean justifiable, relevant, and meaningful. For instance, because I went to art school, because I'm not as talented as other artists, because I was held back as a child, because I don't have enough room for a real art studio, because I could never draw very well, because I only have $100 to spend on art supplies, because I'm not known well enough for a gallery, and so on. In this way of thinking, if I want to mold my universe to create a portrait painting, rather than molding unconditionally from a universal line, I wait for validation or a prerequisite situation which signals me to go ahead. Until I get my realm's validation, or what's required, I repeat, I can't unless. I call this adventure my expansion opportunity, since I didn't have that opportunity when I was everywhere and everything all at once. I'll give this state a name and call me an emerging, localized realm being. Emerging because as I move in my world, one thing leads to another to learn and experience more and more. Localized because of only so much form and influence. Realm because my location is confined to a definite time-space.
All right, this is all starting to make sense, not to mention that what you described is my experience.
I told you I would get back to the detail of what your one all-person form is like. Remember this image from earlier. At deeper levels of the ocean, vibration is finer, higher, and more still. One all-person is the highest rate of vibration. It's so high that for all practical purposes, it's solid like line. There is a word that will be useful, spirit. You've heard the words spirit of Christmas. It suggests a presence behind the scenes organizing everything. In Charles Dickens' Christmas Carol, illustrations and movie characters attempted to show what he looked like. Your one body has a high vibration I that we could call a spirit I. You have a spirit hand that moves things. You have a spirit voice that speaks in everything. It's made out of this high vibration material which permeates all slower vibrations. I'll loosely use a word you probably heard, Holy Spirit. Holy comes from the Old English holig, which means whole, singular, universal. It's a presence which is the final localized organizer. I say loosely because often people will want to define it in a little religious box, which is not my purpose here. Spirit comes from the Latin spirare, or to breathe, which is an apt word because it suggests an almost intangible flow that is life-supporting. To give you an example of how something can be more abstract, when you say someone has a fiery personality, obviously there are no physical flames there. Fire can have a more abstract presence. Your one all-person eyes are not physical. They function more abstractly. Being more abstract, they can instantly see anything, anywhere, anytime. Vision, which is not bound by time-space, ranges into abstraction. Your voice and hands function similarly.
I've heard of the still small voice within. Is that what you're saying?
That could very well be. Still is the quality of very high vibration. So is within. Let's get back to the big picture. Okay, I shut myself down to only see so much. Now what? I put myself on a path or line of expansion to go somewhere. If you think about it, there's only one place I can go if I keep discovering. I eventually bump up against and acknowledge the full me. Here's a diagram. The fully open eye means that I again see with my spirit eye and know myself as one universal line.
What body form do I have when I'm, say, halfway there? In what manner do I paint a portrait halfway there?
That depends on choices you make in your dream. You may remain in human form and perform vast ranges of the universe. Yes, that's possible. You can dream any possibility. You may ascend from your human form and take a deity form. A deity form means you have an unbound expanse, spirit, body, that fills vast realms. You may choose to oversee and organize lesser beings who paint portraits. You inspire and guide them. By the way, the root meaning of the word heaven is an unbound expanse. Here are more images found throughout history which helped convey this idea. In academic painting of earlier centuries, people accepted the idea of celestial hosts. Such images were commonplace. Museums and art academies would have paintings or sculptures of me in those forms to identify the hierarchy of authorship in the universe. Architecture, art, and music of that time was characterized by order, symmetry, formal design, grandiosity, and elaborate ornamentation. It came out of the ideology that the universe had a beneficent hierarchical order permeating the material world that was worthy of adoration and exaltation. Architecture's Greco-Roman roots used these elements to house temples dedicated to the gods. Its intricate craftsmanship, marked by repetition and precision, was a reminder of hierarchical order. Later, these elements came to house political institutions and even commercial trade. Grand styles were taken up in America by the 19th century robber barons of the Gilded Age. For them, it was another way to express boundless optimism, but it ended up mostly displaying conspicuous consumption. That cast a shadow over forms of hierarchical integrity. Today, it represents commercial, political, and ideological oppression to most people. People will discover that deity is their own inner nature and not some external system of determinism that treats them like pawns. They'll again celebrate the perfect order and excellence of their inner nature with grand, orderly, material monuments. My pendulum swings both ways according to the collective needs of people's lines of expansion. It will return bigger and better.
These deities are what you meant by localized over-organizers that hold lesser entities as separate in their own ways?
Yes, when I'm an overseeing lesser being than one all-person, I could be defined as residing in a God kingdom. I've been called spirits, angels, celestial beings, archetypes, gods, devas, deities, providence, and laws of nature. Your question touches on the hierarchy of beings in my universe. In today's technological culture, most people are only comfortable associating these images with obsolete mythology and foolish superstition. Here, Peter Paul Rubens and his studio of apprentices painted me. In Vedic literature, my universal line is called Brahman. Ancient practices, such as transcendental meditation, speak of bringing you to Brahman. Both Brahman and one all-person are embodied as Lord Krishna. Be careful not to overemphasize my cultural flavors unique to the time.
But deity is still my private dream imagination, right?
Like everything else, they are the part of you unseen. There are many details I could get into about the hierarchy of beings in the universe, but our priority here is to get you to paint a portrait beyond your wildest dreams. You can always email me later with any of these questions.
Can you just tell me how I paint when I'm all the way there?
You paint as the Supreme Almighty Being at the very highest vibration. The only difference between now and then is acting on perception's conclusion, since you'd never stop being me.
Okay, say I get there and I'm sitting on the throne as the Supreme Almighty Being. How about all the other beings in the universe? They're on a line of expansion to get there too, right?
When your next being in line is ready to replace you as Supreme Almighty, you merge into my flat non-wave again, to come up everywhere as everything. The cycle of Supreme Almighty back into universal line, and then out as emerging waves again into Supreme Almighty, is my biggest wave. I experience that my Supreme Almighty state is an illusion, not real. Only that which doesn't change is real. Only my flat non-wave no-thing universal line is real. When I merge into that state, I'm again alone to know that I'm not really going anywhere, nor am I losing anything by again coming up out of no-thing into expanding realm beings. To me, nothing has changed. Keep in mind too that when my high vibration is approached, all individual dreams merge as my singular dream. Here we're talking eons of time and expanses of abstract space that are beyond your imagination. Because the universe is eternal, there is plenty of time for everyone to do everything they do.
Whoa, you're really getting out there. Getting back to my feet on planet Earth, in my private dream, I have lots of days when things go wrong. I'm not inspired to paint, my colors don't come out right, I mess up my drawing, get distracted, and so on. It's not like I sat down and said, okay, now in my private dream, I'm going to have an off day. How and why do these things happen?
While I answer this question, I'm going to make clear the hierarchy of truths and maintain them in their proper order. More incomplete truths will be below my most complete truth. There are layers of truths. In this way, everything is true. Here is a pyramid to symbolize them. At the top is an eye symbolizing seeing all. I'll answer what happened from the top down. Number 1. Nothing happened. There is only flatline no thing. Everything else is simply an illusion of perception and not true. Number 2. Everything that happens is in your best interest as my perfect always already plan. If you could see all the details of the universe, you would do exactly the same thing. All alone, I only do what I love to do. Number 3. Right now, all alone, no one else besides you, you're simply telling yourself how your universe works and believing your own story. Quote, it happens that I have off days, unquote. Whatever you call your universe, that it becomes. Number 4. You did something to violate my laws, my rules of procedure that are in place to guide you on your line of expansion. You received the consequences of your violation. This was organized by my host overseer support system, celestial beings in heaven, who execute all my rules and maintain the path of your evolution to make sure that in your adventure you finally return to me. Number 5. You're learning life's lessons the hard way. Number 6. You just had an off day. Shit happens. Smile. Number 7. The world is chaos, everything is ultimately against you, and you're doomed to failure in the end. Fight it the best you can, and sometimes you'll get temporary wins that make life more worth living. Let me tell you of a conversation between characters to help you understand how all 7 are true. The first character is Farmer Sod.
I know the earth is flat. We cut a path through those hills starting from side to side, and the road is as flat as a ruler. When it rained, the water just sat there and didn't flow off end to end. I know with every fiber of my being that the earth is flat.
Then there is Dr. Hardball, a geologist.
Yes, Farmer Sod, what you say is true, but there's a more complete truth that's beyond your perception. The Earth is a sphere of minerals held together by gravitational force. You just need to know what to look for so that you can confirm it for yourself. Let me show you how to track the movement of the stars, and then, with a telescope, watch ships proceed toward you on the horizon.
Then there's me, John Paolucci. Dr. Hardball, the Earth isn't just a sphere of minerals held together by gravitational force. There's a more complete truth beyond your present perception. The Earth is at the center of the universe within you. The root meaning of the word Earth is outer condition. You are sole commander of a metaphysical dream called the universe, and the Earth is an outer condition of your indivisible universal mind. Let me show you what to look for so that you can confirm this for yourself. How everything has one thing in common, and that you are that thing. How that thing is more than time-space, so that all of it fits in the container you call you. How your totality makes you one all-person in charge of everything. And our final character is Reverend Biblybelt.
So you think you're God, huh?
Reverend Biblybelt takes John by the arm and points to a tree in the distance.
Look at that tree over there. Did you create that tree?
He expects a no. But then John Paolucci says, yes, not only did I create that tree, but I created a fabric of identity for myself to forget the details of how I did create it. I created reduced perception so that it would be easy for me to conclude that I didn't. Now there's a place for me to expand into more perception, until perception confirms that I'm sitting on the throne as the Supreme Almighty who makes everything, including trees and you. Here's another example. H2O, which stands for 2 hydrogen molecules and 1 oxygen molecule, come in the forms of vapor, water, and ice. H2O always remains H2O, even though its nature is to transform from and into these various states. H2O is a greater or more essential truth of water, and there's no contradiction between the two. Normally, when you speak of water, you don't say it's hydrogen-oxygen. That's because in the context of localized interaction, there's practical utility in making the distinction of the lesser truth, as they are called in any of the forms, solid, liquid, or gas. If there's ice on my windshield, I'd prefer that someone tells me it's ice instead of telling me it's H2O. Then I'd know to use an ice scraper. There's practical utility in making the distinction between greater and lesser truths. Right now in my universe, your place is to remember that you're me, and to act on that by painting a very advanced portrait painting by expressing directly from universal line. Another time, I merely may have told you that shit happens and to just bite the bullet. Both are simply different spots on your line of expansion as an emerging, localized realm being.
Got it. Let's do it.
My 4th law of universal line. As isolated recipients, I seek events to know who I am, what will happen, and what I can do. With that, I use my one-all mind to seemingly prove whatever I find. The adventure begins.
What am I scraping at all alone?
That's the question I want you to ask yourself when you call yourself a little limited Mac and then act on it instead of acknowledging your one all-person status. Creatures who have limited perception are quite predictable. An insightful experiment was performed on a type of fish called a pike. The fish was placed in an aquarium which had a glass divider that separated the pike from a dozen minnows, which were on the other side of the aquarium. Minnows are the pike's favorite tiny meal. The pike didn't see the glass when he repeatedly tried for the minnows. Each time he tried, he slammed into the invisible barrier. Finally, after a few days of failure, the pike quit trying. The protective glass divider was removed so that the minnows were then unprotected. Predictable? The pike didn't even try to eat the minnows, even when they swam right under his nose. People won't be bothered by someone who tells them that they're sole commander of the universe, even when the truth is right under their noses. Everyone seems to know how life works on this planet. Assisting further with this cover-up, beings who know they are sole commander are self-sufficient. They see the big picture and thus tend to keep to themselves. Am I not clever? Give yourself a pat on the back for this clever and monumental hide-and-seek game that you play on yourself and your world.
Are there many artists on this planet who can paint magically as one all-person? I've never heard of any.
This is what I mean. You look to your world and the people in it to confirm whether or not it can be done, whether it's true or not. If you look in that direction, you're likely to confirm only what you already know about life. Conditions always follow what you know. You need to look at the metaphysical fact of me as one all-person, act on that knowledge, and then you'll know and live it regardless of any perception, event, or experience. Here I'm steering your attention in the proper direction.
Do you have some type of illustration that shows the mechanics of how I prove what I know?
I'll call it the proof loop. Here's the illustration. In number 1, I conclude who I am based on localized perception. Number 2, there I am holding the microphone speaking. one all person, whether I know it or not, as a localized realm being. I intend to paint a portrait. In number 3, I perceive what is available in my world to gauge my success, both my inner faculties and outer conditions. The brain image symbolizes how smart or skilled I am. There are my art supplies to work with. I'm the guy scratching at my miniatures. In number 4, my conclusion is taken as a command. Look at the vacuum cleaner nozzle going to the hinge. I put it there because conclusion as command is taken automatically by virtue of my sole commander status. It involuntarily sucks up my conclusion and takes it as a command. This pulls down or conditions my command, as you can see in the hinge and the arrow turning red. Without that conditioning, my intention to paint a portrait would go straight through and be instantly materialized. In number 5, the command is processed as my one all-person dream. The ocean waves itself. Then in number 6, localized results in my dream world prove what perception told me. There is no such thing as a magic painting. So there, I use my full power as one all person, my one all mind, to prove that I cannot. Then I go back to number 1 and further confirm who I am based on local perception. This holds me in a little box of life. Later we'll see that number 3 boils down to your core beliefs about how the universe works or how personal transformation works. If the ocean refers to wave, that is a core belief or dream story, your pure intelligence no-thing state is the last thing you're left with just prior to processing how your portrait painting materializes. This is just not a high abstract philosophical statement. It's a hands-on function to take hold of, which determines your physical painting.
I have to give myself a pat on the back for this clever and monumental hide-and-seek game that I play on myself and my world. It's airtight. You say the adventure begins. Is the adventure over when I get wise to the game?
Nope. Then the real adventure begins. The really great painting begins. Let's look at the 5th law. My 5th law of universal line. A time comes to discover my hide-and-seek game and re-establish my identity. Even without perception of one all person, I use my one thing state to act as if I were not missing. I go ahead to command my universe from my one thing state. Perception, experience, and events then flow fondly. Eventually, I know and do everything again. Knowing and remedial procedures. Here is the illustration of my biggest wave. From flat, non-wave no thing, I divide myself into many beings. The first major landmark on your journey is what I call fond flow effulgence. The word effulgence means plentiful fullness on the move. This is where I know who I am so sufficiently that I dream a private dream as one all person. Fond flow effulgence is defined as flowing from one fulfillment to the next with no gap, loss, lack, or restriction. I completely enjoy painting a portrait, and when I'm ready for the next better portrait, I immediately go on to my next dream. Anything I want is materialized instantly, spontaneously, taking imagination to reality. Fond flow effulgence is fully managing my life with both line and wave, or acting as a cosmically aware realm being. I live expanding dreams that are unimaginable in scale. A fanciful effulgent creation of a portrait painting can take many forms. Number 1, you know exactly how to paint so that everything goes smooth and effortless. Number 2, you get ideas or have visions of how the portrait could look beyond your wildest expectations, and then find that you have the skill to easily paint it. 3, you always see the finished painting in front of you, and you just fill in the colors for others to be able to see. 4, you feel like your hand is being guided while you paint, so that painting happens spontaneously and magically. Number 5, the finished painting physically, instantly, permanently materializes out of thin air in front of you as if by an invisible magic hand. The painting is produced without human hands. Remember that you own my silent virtual state and are using it to prove that you aren't one all-person as shown in the proof loop illustration. You're going to deliberately use my silent virtual state to command my universe from my universal line virtual state. From there, you'll magically produce your finished portrait painting. Now is the time to put what you know to work. Let's go ahead and command your universe for a completely magical portrait painted without human hands. To do this, you pay no attention to the way things are in your realm. You're treating your intention truly as a dream. There are no rules because you're the rule maker all alone within yourself. There's no one to wait on for approval. To decide what kind of portrait to paint, simply ask yourself, what kind of portrait would I paint if I was all alone, there was no one in the universe besides me, and all was my private dream? Paint that one.
Oh, I guess I really have no reason to paint if there are no rules or conditions except my imagination.
I, as one all-person, have no reason to have to do anything. I act for no reason at all except to enjoy who I am. Reasons for things happening, that is, the nature or system of the universe, reside in the field of wave. There are no such attributes in my attributeless or universal line state from where you will paint. You're going to go for your dream painting for absolutely no reason at all except to enjoy that you're sole commander of the universe. That's how I do everything. As any painting vibrates, it comes up out of my universal flatline state, exists, and then dissolves back into nothing faster than you can see. It's gone. That means that its high vibration is making it constantly appear and disappear right now out of thin air as if by magic. You may consider a tube of paint's source as a series of industrial steps, marketing steps, and transportation to your studio. But a more essential truth is that they magically come directly from your quiet, flat, non-wave state, the same place your thought waves about them are coming from. In other words, you have a real magic show going on in front of you all the time. And according to how much of the universe fills you, all of it, you are the magician. Doesn't that make you more comfortable for deliberately painting a 100% magical portrait?
Let's say that Mac wants to paint a painting of a person so beautiful that it would blow him away. Right here and now, Mac doesn't know the details of what that person looks like. All he knows is that he wants it to be stunningly beautiful. If that magic is possible, then someone who knows more than Mac is necessary to make that painting. If Mac doesn't know, then who knows?
I know, see, and do everything everywhere forever as the part of you unseen. I know what that beautiful portrait painting looks like before you even get the idea to paint it, because I gave you the idea. Remember that there is only one voice, no matter how many individuals there seem to be. It's my voice who both wondered and said it's possible. Go ahead and say it. I know what that beautiful portrait painting looks like.
I know what that beautiful portrait painting looks like.
You just informed yourself that you, all alone, could do the painting that your seeming person who calls himself Mac couldn't do.
Could, but how do I know I actually will?
Because you are the only one who can decide you can. There is no one else, so you simply claim your status and go ahead. Knowing that you're all alone in your dream, you would never ask, but how do I know I actually will? Doing so is acting like a thirsty fish in the sea. What if you dream that Mac, as one all person, knows what the portrait looks like and that he does it now? Does it make any difference what you dream? Is it any different from dreaming that a toothpick appears in your hand? Both don't depend on any kind of real world, do they?
You've got me there. Okay.
There's no absence represented by universal line. If an attribute of absence is staring you in the face, like you just spoke of, you're looking to wave, not the universal line of that wave. Let's say, as an analogy, that what produces a magical painting is a chemical reaction of your skin to salt water. There you are in the ocean. That is, line never stops being line, so that you are it. You can move around, that is, make waves or respond to waves all you like, but it makes no difference because the source of your return is the water's contact with your skin, not any movement. So what do? Simply know you are in that silent ocean to magically materialize your portrait painting. Mind, intention, purpose, and appropriateness are revealed as soon as wave bends, because their experience is also a wave. My universal line state is perfect choice and sufficient supply without any attributes, that is, in a virtual way. You can search for attributes in order to validate what you can do, but you won't find them in one thing, that is the ocean, because it's both the experiencer and the experience rolled into one without distinction. I told you that your universal line virtual state is the most abstract, most mind-bending thing you could ever know of. Now, as you put it to work, you're seeing what I mean. You're getting familiar with the fact that your authorship integrity has nothing to do with any attribute. You simply are that. So if you want it, there's nothing to do but to know you are that and go on to express it. Here is the proof loop diagram, where you now have all the living proof you could want that painting a portrait magically out of thin air is naive nonsense. Any ideas for what you should do here to free yourself from that?
I need to somehow break the loop.
Like this illustration? The realm being boundaries are cut so you give yourself a clear shot to your universal line authorship. All arrows are go green.
Okay, but I'm not sure exactly what I do, how I start to paint this portrait magically.
You mean that you feel the need for something more than you have now before you can do it?
Yes, I just feel like I reside in some sort of systemic climate that says such a thing is unlikely.
In your private dream, you can dream either of four ways just as easily. First, when you dream your painting, it just shows up magically. Second, when you dream that you need to know the physical process of painting, you watch yourself investigate and work at it. Third, When you dream to command from universal line, you're there. Fourth, when you dream that you need to better know the process of commanding your universe for the painting, you watch yourself investigate and work at command. Therefore, it all comes down to your who identity. Let's again look at who. Here is an illustration of you sitting on your throne as one all-person. I used beams of light emanating from you because your dream illuminates everything like a source of light. Here are some reasons you may hear, while merely dreaming, for why you need something more, and then a wise response. I need to become more familiar with my universal line, a one all-person state. No, I don't need that. Here I am, fully in charge, complete. I need to eliminate obstacles that are blocking my magic portrait painting. No, I don't need that. Here I am, fully in charge, complete. I need to take some outer steps or take procedural responsibility to do the portrait painting. Maybe getting a canvas first. No, I don't need that. Here I am, fully in charge, complete. A feeling is tugging at me, telling me I need to do more. I'm not sure what, so I can't rest in simplicity. No, I don't need that. Don't attend to it. I'm fully here now, as one all-person and as a universal line. This is it. Go ahead and speak the words. Here I am, all alone and fully in charge, my private dream. No experience, no perception, no excuse. I now become my portrait painting instantly materialized in full. Now, why did I use the words no excuse? Well, just because you agreed to forget that you made the rules of how the universe works doesn't mean you have a good excuse to unquestionably obey a constrained systemic climate.
Here I am, all alone and fully in charge, my private dream. No experience, no perception, no excuse. I now become my portrait painting instantly materialized in full. Wow, I just felt a ton of excuses fall off by just favoring who. Now I see what you mean by not trying to remove obstacles or exerting myself in any way.
Now what I'll have you do is close your eyes for 2 minutes. I'll tell you when the time is up. During that time, have your intention to instantly materialize your portrait painting as you just did, but this time think it quietly inside. Next, for about 15 seconds, I want you to look to your transparent, all-pervasive universal line state, because that's where your return is coming from, not from your one all-person state. After 15 seconds with universal line, again repeat the process starting with your intention. Remember, universal line is not an experience, so you're not looking to experience anything. It's simply the looking to of knowing something that permeates everything in your midst. You'll have enough time in this 2 minutes for maybe 6 processes of intention into universal line. And 2 minutes pass.
I heard the excuses over and over each time I did my intention, but then the excuse dissolved each time through acknowledgement of who I am and what I'm doing as one all-person. At that point, I looked to universal line for 15 seconds. I heard, well, this excuse thing keeps happening each time, and the painting isn't here, so it's going to take time and practice to get this right. Next I thought, hey wait, I don't need that thought wave either. I remembered the vacuum nozzle and how that thought was taken to be processed. Not a smart move. I was then left with the simplicity of just going to universal line. That final little joke I played on myself almost made me laugh.
Good. You did everything correctly. All you do is take care of correct action, and the painting results take care of themselves by law. You don't need to look for results. Here is a target illustration of how you handle your priorities.
It was so simple that it seems too good to be true. I want to do more of that.
That's because who you are is that simple, and you went home. The return of commanding your magical portrait painting has only to do with universal line, the bender of wave. You could go to systemic wave by seeking to repair your limitation and to adjust and evaluate how you're doing. To do that would to be act like a thirsty fish in the sea because you're always already using universal line 100%. Before, you commanded your universe and waved yourself as, quote, how the universe works is something going wrong like this, happening to a guy like me. Even saying, quote, see how I need to better know that I'm universal line, unquote, is not the complete truth because you always already are that. You could also say, quote, but I lose myself as a localized realm being, so I have to get used to acting as one all person again, don't I? Then maybe there's more that needs to change than I can see about me before I can command my universe from universal line. There may be more and more to learn, and that could go on for a long time. Trying this is not realistic to meet the normal demands of my practical daily life. Whatever you conclude is you simply telling yourself a story of how the universe works and then believing it. That is how it waves. You've then used my complete authorship integrity to prove it. See how easy it is to get hung up in wave? How do you justify hanging yourself on wave when you are the ocean?
Yes, I see what you mean. It just doesn't make sense to hang on the wave.
Remember the hierarchy of truths. First, your farmer sod will tell you that a magical painting isn't possible, that you're wasting your time. He may also act confused and discouraged. Next, your Dr. Hardball will say that it's possible, but that you will need more processes of arriving, and that it could be a long, complicated journey. If you can't seem to know, can't seem to act different, and no results happen, that is the field of systemic wave, which again has nothing to do with where your magical painting is coming from. So what do? You don't do anything about it and continue to look to the only thing that has to do with the return and which is the simplest, most comfortable thing you could do.
And if I can't seem to stop going to sod and hardball, if it seems to go by itself, if my mind is spinning out of control like Daffy Duck?
With that question, Daffy Duck is happening right now. Smile. Remember that there is practical utility in dealing with lesser truths. It could happen that you find yourself overshadowed to the point that despite your best intentions, you're stuck or out of control. To fully accommodate your emerging realm being experience, I'll give you what we'll call a remedial procedure. It's very behavior-based. The answer is to simply remain however you find yourself, spinning out of control as a realm being, to clear up your mess. No skill required. Watch this more inclusive intention taken by the vacuum nozzle as shown in the proof loop illustration, so that you know you're doing all you need to. All you need to do is illustrated by the thumbs up and in the diagram below. This also applies to bodily discomfort that may challenge you. You can call this remedy command active inclusion. Whatever happens, you give it your thumbs up for the magical painting to be completed in full. Inclusion is easy. While out of control, trying to release the spin for a clear shot could be very demanding, if not impossible. A spin may not be the only problem. Another time your mind may feel like wet cardboard. Again, you give it your thumbs up for the magical painting to be completed in full. The return of commanding your universe may only at first be more clarity in using universal line. You may get clarity that your active inclusion is a smart move, and then you have even more conviction to leave conclusion wave alone. The best return is a deeper realization of yourself as universal line. This is a very valuable return. It will pay big and change everything. Let's summarize the procedure I had you do for 2 minutes. It will be your final procedure that I'll have you do for at least 10 minutes, at least twice a day. In your session, you're staying with the simplest thing you could ever know and acknowledging the biggest fact of who you are. You've decided that all you need to magically materialize your portrait painting is be one thing, to simply be universal line. In this illustration, you're waving your hand blindly over all attributes, even one all person. All you acknowledge is the one thing that you are. You could speak, simply being universal line, I now become my painting instantly materialized in full, or just hold the intention briefly. Of course, you hear Mac's voice and see how you use his will to speak, and maybe even remember how your one all-person state spoke. However, you have the option to forget all about those and acknowledge just one thing. That's the final truth, the final reality. So enjoy that elegant simplicity. It's intending or speaking one thing. This is the most refined procedure. Try it now for 2 minutes. And 2 minutes pass.
Boy, did I hear excuses for needing to do more. I had no command content of attention, and no relating to any personage, so there was no control and nothing there to be processed. I heard the excuse that I was in a void just wasting my time of taking care of my portrait painting.
Exactly. Yet pure intelligence was there in your midst, the same pure intelligence that upholds personage and control. It's what upheld your knowing you're in control whenever your control happens. It also structured the wave that concluded your waste of time. Right in the midst of anything moving, noising, or attributing, there it is. Line, the bender of wave, is your still silent virtual state. It's your biggest who. Any vibration that comes during your session telling you that you need more for your painting is irrelevant because you're simply being universal line for your return. That's why you can say, no, I don't need that, to any attribute, event, or condition which presents itself during your session. If you like, perform a session as one all person. See how performing a session as universal line is bottoming out at the final reality of who you are. Choose either one and go with your favorite. If you enjoy being more personal, that's who you are too. Even from the point of view of wave, simply being universal line makes sense. In this illustration, look how simply being one thing for your magical painting is sucked up by the vacuum nozzle automatically. It makes no difference what the content is to the vacuum. Now you're doing one thing and no thing to accomplish your painting instantly materialized in full. Try it again now for 2 minutes. 2 minutes pass.
That was nice. I enjoyed having no responsibility for all the complexities you told me, and instead just be one thing. Instead of concern over my spinning mind and what it might do to my dream, I went back to being one thing instead. I recalled the vacuum image and saw that I did all that was required of me for a successful command. I felt off the hook for both trying to realize universal line and mastering the portrait painting.
The grandfather of all excuses is, quote, I haven't really arrived at the state of universal line, and I'm only deluding myself. I'm still hung up on merely the intellectual thought of it, which is still wave. This procedure will build familiarity and strength in commanding your universe with universal line for creating a painting without human hands.
But you told me that I already command perfectly because of who I am. Isn't doing that a contradiction, or acting like a thirsty fish in the sea?
Here will work an incomplete truth that has practical utility. Remember the analogy earlier? I'm telling you that your windshield has ice on it instead of telling you it has H2O, so that you know to use an ice scraper. In this way, I'm accommodating your very real emerging realm being experience, dream experience, that you aren't yet expressing a painting directly from universal line, and therefore you need more familiarity. You'll know when it's no longer useful. You'll sit quietly with closed eyes for 10 minutes. You think the words inside yourself, simply being universal line, I now become my painting, instantly materialized in full. Next you look to universal line for 15 seconds, like I had you do before. Before you do your 10 minutes, I'll have you do what I call preparatory resolve. You refresh why your words are complete authorship integrity. Otherwise, you may fall back on your identity as merely an ant in the scheme of things. Seeing yourself holding the microphone connected to universal line will assist.
Why do you have me sit with my eyes closed for a time? Why not just go on knowing and using what you covered?
When you learn scuba diving, first the instructor has you train in a heated pool where it's most conducive to getting used to equipment and techniques. You don't want the threat of sharks and hypothermia when you learn your breathing technique. You'll set aside an exclusive time, a session, in which you sit quietly without responsibility for realm events. This sets up a supportive condition for you to begin establishing clarity and strength in acting as universal line.
Why 10 minutes?
There are 2 reasons. 10 minutes is a sufficient span of time to allow effective settling into the experience of leaving realm being boundaries alone. Next, I've chosen a fixed reference of 10. This frees you from evaluating when to stop based on supportive or non-supportive realm being experiences. Then the leaf isn't tossed about by the winds of localized result. For instance, I feel like it's time to stop, or tomorrow might be a better day to do it. When the 10 minutes are up, that's it. You're off the hook of evaluating based on perceived success or failure. If time allows, you can add more groups of 10. I would recommend that you make 10-minute sessions a part of your day. The first activity you do at the start of your day influences the rest of your day. I'd recommend that you do it first thing in the morning and then sometime in the evening, preferably before dinner. Sitting with a full stomach may not be comfortable. Before bed is also not advisable because it may give you restful alertness, causing you not to need sleep and thus unable to fall asleep normally.
Sitting up or lying down?
Favor sitting up. Only lie down if you're so fatigued that sitting up is uncomfortable. If you doze off, when awake just pick up where you left off or do it later. If you doze off, it's because you need rest to be alert. Alertness is how you take command of your universe, so don't resist sleep if you need it. First, you find a comfortable spot to sit where you're unlikely to be interrupted by others. There's no need to make a big deal out of scheduling time and the perfect location. There are plenty of little 10-minute chunks throughout your day to grab. If you find an hour, you can do 6 in a row. Don't mind if you're in a noisy environment. Noise is only a barrier if you treat it so. Noise doesn't matter to me. I make a noisy universe for a good reason, and it doesn't keep me from managing it. People may see you with your closed eyes and ask, "What's wrong? Are you tired?" You can say, "No, I'm just having a peaceful moment," or something like that. To time yourself, have a watch or clock you can glance down at to check. As you get proficient, you'll know 10 minutes, close enough. Preparatory resolve. Because you are new to this information, it's good to refresh it prior to your session. That means you look over the text and or images to refresh what and why you're doing what you do. It will give you more conviction. Sometimes just glancing at a few images is like a catalyst that gets you resolved about your session and settled into command. I also recommend that you command at your easel just before you start to paint as you usually do. 1 minute should be enough. I'll leave it up to you how you want to do your command, eyes open, closed, silent or verbal, out loud. Do your preparatory resolve just before. When you go home today, you can do 2 10-minute sessions and also an easel session before you see me tomorrow. Before you leave, I want to give you a sheet called "What Happens During Your 10-Minute Session." Here's a diagram. When you sit to do your 10-minute session, this diagram will prepare you for what will happen. It's what happens automatically until you take conscious control of your dream and make your own rules. Remember that rules, that is how the universe works, are in place to guide you on your line of expansion until you accept that you're the sole rule maker. With number 1, you do your preparatory resolve. You acknowledge who is going to speak his command. With number 2, you speak, or have your intention for the magical painting. There you are with the microphone hooked to universal line. Quote, "Simply being universal line, I now become my painting instantly materialized in full." Unquote. Next, with number 3, because this knowledge is new to you, you're likely to hear a reaction from the thirsty fish in the sea. Some kind of excuse why you can't or won't paint magically. It's symbolized by the man painting a miniature portrait. Essentially, this is your limited core beliefs about how the universe works, or how personal transformation works. It's unlikely you'll hold the collective details all at once in memory. As such, it may just be a sick-to-your-stomach feeling that something is wrong, or a pounding in your chest that has no observable meaning. On the other extreme, you may hear a clear, violent threat about danger. When your understanding of universal line is familiar enough, all conflicts vanish. Until then, they will vie for your attention. Because you did your preparatory resolve, you know how to handle them. You just don't feed them with your concern because you know they're not where your return is coming from. They'll always include the aspect of, quote, "I need to do more," unquote. You'll inclusively remain with them so that they don't matter. However, if they're loud, you may experience spinning out of control, partially or completely wiping out your new self-knowledge, making you feel like a helpless victim. As you recall to look to universal line instead of responding to it or trying to resist it, it will fade and let you proceed. The more you experience it, the better you get at handling wave. Any challenge is there to deepen your familiarity. That is number 4. You made a choice to go with universal line instead of your realm being boundary or hanging on wave. The divided sphere is symbolic of one thing's perfect choice and sufficient supply. complete authorship integrity that you've gone with instead. With number 5, the next thing you know, your mind wanders to a line of thought or daydreaming. That could go on for a few seconds or minutes. That happens because you're used to being merely a recipient of variations. Because you're sitting there for your painting, eventually another thought will come, oh, I'm on a thought and forgot I'm having a session to instantly materialize my portrait painting. With that, you return to your intention to be universal line for your painting. Number 7, that could happen many times to various degrees in your 10-minute session. The more you experience it, the better you get at handling wave. The event deepens your familiarity. Another situation may arise where you also have an automatic line of thought which goes simultaneously with your choice to remain with universal line. Again, since you've chosen not to be interested in attributes, you don't mind if the thoughts are there walking by your side. You easily and innocently favor your choice to remain universal line for the magical painting. You don't have to try to remain universal line because you already are that. A time may go by where you're only aware of your choice to remain your one thing state. Another situation could be that there are no thoughts, no choice, no mental activity, just silent, still alertness. The experiencer left to himself without an experience. Whatever happens, or doesn't happen, you stay with your 10 minutes. With number 8, a time check confirms that the 10 minutes is up. Stop or add another 10. Do preparatory resolve if needed. Once the choice is made, the process goes almost by itself. Almost because when you find you're on a thought, you return to your choice, or if thought is simultaneous with choice, you don't mind what's going on. The whole point of this diagram is to get you to properly manage wave. Perception's conclusion is going to prove to you that you have not aligned yourself with universal line, and that you're just wasting your time. But since you are that ocean, you allow, by your side, whatever remains of perception's conclusion, as you simply go on, commanding your universe. When perception's conclusion tells you that simply remaining the ocean for your return is not enough, you as the sole rule maker, all alone, no one besides you, knows that's an absurd place to go within yourself. Okay, I'll see you tomorrow.
The preparatory resolve was helpful. I see that the sheet you gave me about what happens during the 10 minutes was a part of my preparatory resolve. It set me up. I found weak points in my understanding and filled them in by reviewing the advanced painting with universal line text. Then I acted on the strength which the information gave me by doing the 10-minute session. My session happened exactly as your sheet said it would.
Something like this could happen. Quote, I'm really busy, distracted, and don't feel well, so I can't study or do your remedial procedures right now. Unquote. You can accommodate this practically. The answer is to do outer command active inclusion. There are two different types of command active inclusion, passive and active. Passive is when you simply observe or witness the unchoiceful situation going on around and within you. You're mindfully observing anything that distracts you from getting your painting done. Active is when you're too busy with daily responsibilities to paint, either to paint conventionally or with universal line. For instance, paying your bills, cleaning your house, managing people, taking care of your health. Go about these things with the intention in the back of your mind that these things are your complete means whereby to finish your magical painting. Just like you did for your Daffy Duck mental state to get you off the hook. It breaks the proof loop.
So if I'm in a dentist chair and he's drilling away, I can include that situation, which is a command of my universe to produce my fully magical portrait painting?
Or anything else distracting you or keeping you busy. Actually, you could go out, see a movie, and have a pizza as your complete means whereby to produce your fully magical portrait painting. After all, it's your dream, right? One of my realm beings' mind was so out of control that the only way he could take responsibility for the quality of his command was to lie down and feel the pressure of his bed against his body. He watched the vacuum nozzle take that agreement, that is, feeling the pressure of his bed against his body, as his complete means whereby to paint a magical portrait. He loved it and it worked perfectly for him. That was passive, outer, command, active inclusion. To decide when to use command active inclusion, ask yourself, if I had a choice, would I have it come? The painting experience, perception, event which life just handed me? You may answer, no, if I had a choice, I wouldn't have it come. If it keeps impolitely presenting itself, giving you no way out, give it the thumbs up to produce your fully magical portrait painting.
Fascinating. But you're telling me all these remedies because I haven't fully realized universal line. What do you suggest I do during my day for better familiarity, clarity, and conviction to use my universal line?
First, it's only information. Don't treat it like a sacred cow just because it's so big and intimidating. Study it as you would study anything else, like studying the manual that came with your car. Look at your priorities. What's your attention on all day long? Schedule more of that attention for carefully considering line, wave, and the first 5 laws of the universe. You may print out images that inspire you the most. Have them where you can see them often. Quiz yourself. Why does wave express who the bender is and that there is only one bender? Why is everything one thing? Why is the vacuum nozzle sucking up my content of attention? You should be able to answer these quickly and confidently. If not, go back into the text and more carefully consider the facts. Ask yourself, all alone, no one else besides me in the universe, all my private dream, what am I doing? Here is a study sheet with essential questions. Look at these questions while speaking command content of attention to integrate their meaning in action. Then leave them behind for universal line. They can also serve as preparatory resolve. Question. Why is wave made up of only one line, universal, and not 2 or more lines? What is the result? Answer. 2 lines would be variations, and that would make them parts, not the whole. The result is that there's one bender of wave all alone. Question. Why is universal line pure intelligence and not intelligent? Universal line contains everything in a virtual state without form. Something intelligent requires form. Pure intelligence is formless and without relative attributes. That is, no reasons, no rules, no boundaries. Yet the source of all attributes or variations. That makes it the ultimate abstraction and the final fundamental truth to act on. Question. When I speak command, content of attention, why is the universe, the whole of the universe, speaking? Answer. Because line is the bender of wave, and there is only one line. If anything, including me, speaks, it's all of that line bending itself. Question. While commanding, what's the advantage to acting on less than the final fundamental truth? Answer. There is no advantage to acting on an incomplete truth during command. If the ocean acts like a wave, it's unlikely to command other waves. Question. Why am I one all-person all alone? Answer: because as indivisible bender of wave, I can never stop being that all, even when I'm a person. That makes me an all person all alone. Question: why is universal line neither experience nor perception? Answer: because it's a unified state without multiple attributes. Attributes are necessary to produce both an experiencer and the experience. Question: why is my one all-person state not necessarily an experience or perception? Because it's all-pervasive. Whatever is all-pervasive is transparent because it permeates everything equally, like H2O permeates water. Also because perception is shut down for a place to expand. Question: without perception or experience, what am I left with for looking to universal line? Answer: I look with knowing or understanding and soft pedal perception's conclusion. Question: why my complete authorship integrity, that is perfect choice and sufficient supply when I speak command content, instead of merely an incompetent ant in the scheme of things? Answer: just as one thing never stops being the whole, even when it seemingly localizes itself as variations, I, as one all-person, never stop being the whole when I become seeming individuals. One all-person means I see, know, and do everything everywhere forever. Missing nothing, I am perfect choice and sufficient supply. Question: what happened that perfect choice and sufficient supply isn't an experience? Answer: I shut down perception in order to have a place to expand. With that, I could conclude all kinds of things about who I am and what I can do. Question: why is everything my private dream? Answer: formless, pure intelligence becomes conscious of itself and vibrates as consciousness. I am, one all I am. Continuing that unfolding as a total creative intelligence personage, I vibrate myself as, quote, now I become, unquote. That personal intention becomes various vibrations to form a play stage or seeming separate outer condition and is called a private dream. Because I, as one all-person, never stop being myself, even when I become individual beings, that is me right here on this planet, it's my place to claim and deliberately play my cosmic dream right here now. Question: why don't I need to know the technical details of forming a portrait painting, such as taught in art school? Answer: when I dream of portrait painting, it just shows up. When I dream that I need to know materials and procedures, I watch myself investigate and work at it. Fully conscious dreaming drops all excess baggage outside of fond flow effulgence. Question: why do I have all the living proof I could want that I'm merely an ant in the scheme of things, and possibly making a big mistake when commanding? Because, me ignoring me, and only looking to wave when I speak command, I find in front of me what I've already proven locally, that is seen only by localized perception, through that ignorance. Question: why would I feel discouragement and intimidation surrounding the performance of command? Answer: because I'm accustomed to only looking to wave and thus ignoring my complete authorship integrity. I find only realm being boundaries. Question: why is my content of attention involuntarily sucked up to be processed as a return, just like a vacuum nozzle? because I never stop being one all-person commanding my universe as a private dream, even if I ignore it or prove it otherwise with local perception. My creation process goes on even if it's behind the scenes. Question: why is it completely up to me to know and call my command content of attention, quote, perfect choice and sufficient supply, unquote, regardless of local appearances, proof, and conditioning? Answer: all alone, there's no one else to decide either way. I take full responsibility to step through my game of hide and seek. If I find myself shirking responsibility, I simply ask myself, quote, all alone, in my private dream, what am I doing in acting timid and negligent? What am I doing acting as an isolated recipient of my own system? Question: why does the return of command have only to do with universal line and not wave? Answer: because everything comes from the bending of wave, universal line. Wave is only the result, not the cause. Wave as cause is only an illusion due to seeing knowing only a small portion of the universe. Question: what is meant by systemic wave and why is it so convincing? Answer: all attributes of the universe are wave. There's a system of waves in place in order to guide beings on a line of expansion. It seems just the way things are. Everyone has 2 rows of teeth. Water freezes at 32 degrees. The only thing we have to do is die and pay taxes. There is no such thing as real magic, and so on. Just try to prove it otherwise, without higher knowledge, and see what a fool you make of yourself. Question: if I obey systemic wave just because it's there, what am I essentially doing as one all-person? Answer: merely telling myself a story of how the universe works and then believing it. Question: if the systemics of wave is vying for my conviction while looking to the stillness of universal line, how do I handle wave? Answer: by sufficiently understanding the first 5 laws of universal line and then acting while soft-pedaling normal human perception. In that way, systemics no longer have life, power, authority, and cease to exist. Question: why is my mindfulness of seeking, evaluating, and adjusting in the field of wave inappropriate while commanding or looking for the return of command? Answer: because my return has only to do with and is formed by my still, quiet, universal line, not wave. Therefore, whatever is going on with wave during command is irrelevant. I'd be acting like a thirsty fish in the sea if I chased after wave in order to be the ocean. Question: when are remedial procedures appropriate? Answer: when, despite my best intentions, I can't seem to understand, I feel out of control, or are overshadowed by environment or bodily conditions.
What do you mean by leave them behind for universal line?
The question's answers are the field of wave. They are meant to point you to staying with the stillness of universal line for your return. They point the way but are not the way themselves. Universal line is the way.
Okay, getting back to painting, you suggested that I should continue conventional artwork and not just wait for a magical painting.
That would be most practical. You've got your career's immediate demands to consider, not to mention that you might sacrifice your level of enjoyment and fulfillment that comes from the way you're presently painting. Let the return of your command lead the way to magical painting. It will show you when it's time to pack up your paints. You may find that your return comes in degrees, so that you are experiencing degrees of number 1 through number 4 on the list of possible storylines as they relate to progress in painting. There are 3 options to handling a partial return of your command on your path to mastering this knowledge. First, you stay with mastering this knowledge until the desired return comes through. Second, you stop and use whatever painting skill you have so far. Third, you do a mixture of both and enjoy yourself along the way. A mixture of both is most practical and what I'll recommend you do here. However, I would understand that in your zeal to paint magically, you abandon conventional painting and focus entirely on painting with universal line. That's a very personal choice based on what makes your life most worth living. A lot more people than you think are accomplishing things magically on this planet. The question arises, how come I never heard about it before? Why do these people remain hidden? There are several reasons. Yes, it's true that people with small minds would ridicule them or try to prove them fakes, but that's not much of an issue because they're above what people think. They just prefer not to live their lives as a circus act. They also avoid being idolized or worshipped because that can weaken other people's integrity. Like attracts like, so they prefer to enjoy the company of like-minded individuals. They also understand people's lines of evolution and see the wisdom of what's going on in the world, whereas the conventional view would otherwise be saddening. They see how everything is happening for the most perfect reason because I know exactly what I'm doing, and there's only me. They've no objection to people living their lives without knowledge of me. You won't find them out in public as activists or reformers. They instead quietly express directly from their universal line and are self-sufficient. They work quietly behind the scenes to influence the world, just like I do. It's meaningful for me to have advanced portrait painting through universal line, met by skepticism or ridicule by most, because skepticism is as valid a means of realm-being expansion as any other. People learn how to protect themselves from misinformation that way, which the world is full of right now. You, on the other hand, were ready to consider something more expansive. You won't hear me criticize people who reject me. I love to forever expand myself. That means there needs to be individuals for every kind of spot on a line of expansion, from lesser to greater. Everyone has to start somewhere. Your numbers are growing. It's only a matter of time before magical painting is commonplace. Unlimited expansion also means that there will always be room for uncommon individuals who lead the way for others. I'll expect to see groundbreaking paintings from you even amidst your like-minded friends.
I'll be back to share uncommon paintings with you. See you later.
I'll leave you with a final word. You don't wait for any experience of yourself as one all-person in order to go ahead and command your universe because you are already that person.
I didn't wait as you requested. Here's my painting done without human hands.
Ah, professional excellence. You have been warned. The information in this document is merely to assist you from falling prey to the clever hoax of metaphysics. If you're weak and gullible enough to actually believe the information in advanced portrait painting through universal line and desire to put it to work, you're hereby advised to seek psychological counseling from a qualified medical professional. If you heard yourself think the question, is John's info then not true? Then you're believing what I've said just because I said it, haven't confirmed universal line for yourself, and don't have your own conviction. Go back and more carefully consider the info if you're truly interested in mastering it. The end.